Thank you. Good afternoon. This is great, all right, because we call this the graveyard shift, but it's no graveyard and it's not a shift. And I really wanted people who are here to be hearing this story. And I think Ricky wasn't being very fair, all right, in some of the comments he's made, but I think because he's very passionate about the business he's driving. So I'm going to open up to the floor very soon. But before I do, I'm going to ask Ricky to go back a little bit in time and tell us, Ricky, before you became an entrepreneur, what were you?
See, I spent 19 years with Singapore Airlines.
A pilot?
Yeah. All my classmates now actually are flying and all complaining it is time to fly 15 hours, even to carry 4 pilots to fly from Singapore to London.
Okay, so hold there. So you were 15 years a pilot. So what pushed you to be an entrepreneur?
You see, Singapore Airlines was quite friendly at that time. They got such thing called exclusivity kind of agreement. As long you can do business, but please don't take free airline ticket.
So you were on the side doing a business while you were flying.
It is where my wife started first childcare center in 86. Those days only cost 35,000 Singapore dollar to set up one childcare center. Today, 10 times.
Very good. And so when you say you are one of 2 partners, who's the other partner in your business today?
My partner is my wife. So far, we have been, besides managing our personal relationship, we must also manage our working relationship. Not easy, huh?
Very good. You can't fire your wife and she can't fire you. Yes. So with a family-owned business, so no real push factor. So what was the trigger? What makes you decide that enough of juggling between 2 portfolios and living Singapore Airlines for business?
You see, when we were flying, we actually went around and saw many opportunities. Even though SI being kind, say, oh, I can do part-time, up to you. But many times, opportunity miss. So it was a very good time when 1994, Singapore Airlines offered golden handshake. Took the money, went out, then we spurged all the money and gone. But anyway, that was a big opportunity for me. We were able to use the money to actually pay some good tuition and gain what we are today.
Thank you very much. So the initial years with Quest Zone, with going to China, those were all your tuition fees. So what helped you identify Vietnam?
When we started in 2000, when simultaneously opened 4 childcare centers, 2 in Vietnam, Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh, 1 in Shanghai, and 1 in Tianjin. When we go along, we start to realize that the law in China, it is not easy for education. They call it 义务教育, year 1 to year 9. We are talking about the high income local. My market from day 1 is local, not foreigner. The case of Singapore, all the industries are doing so well because their school fee are paid by company. Where my target is the rich local, like the case of Vietnam, my market is 70% the rich Vietnamese and 30%, I call it the poor foreigner. Because the school fee of kids are being paid by themselves. Okay, so with the law changes along the way from 2000 to 2005, I found it so difficult. Even to traveling within China, took me a long time to go to Tianjin. Whether for case of Vietnam, the law changed. From the initial part, 30% local ownership, to today, certain sector of education can be 100% ownership. So that actually prompted me to actually, in a way, downsize the Chinese investment, shut down totally, and then focus in Vietnam for the last 11 years.
Very good. So you complain about bankers. Did the banks help you at all?
Some did, some no. You see, I lost 1 bungalow at the peak. When you were okay, valuation go up, 1996. 1 bungalow worth 5 million. I lend you 5.5 million. 110%. I said, sure or not? He said, no, it's okay, it's good. Please take the money. I said, okay, took the money. It is where we went to set up Suntec City, Quest Zone, at $3 million. So of course, the downturn in 1997, real estate price had gone down from 5 million valuation dropped to $3 million. And of course, they calling your loan, give me more collateral. Of course, when you come to a part where you cannot pay, they become a nuisance. They can send their people to repossess your car. Say, oh, if 2 months never pay money, car tow away. When I was in China, it was a nightmare when my wife said, oh, somebody tow away your car. I said, again? Okay, anyway, they were good banker here. Not everybody. But sometimes because of the level of the manager, they just want to cover the position. I mean, I myself and my advisor was actually chased by OCBC. Okay, it's over, so it's okay. So they actually were prepared to take a haircut. In the year 2004, October the 1st, one signature only, I saved $2.8 million, Singapore dollars. That's all, because they got no more collateral. Bungalow sold, still owe money. But it was through consistent and persistency that I and my consultant met the banker for more than 15 times in the 3 years period. And they probably changed 6 bankers. We still around. At the end, they get tired, say, oh, please stop, I got to go home. Australian banker, I'll go home, okay, good.
So very good. So that's the past, Vicky. Let's go to the current. So given the growth potential you have in Vietnam, how do you manage the cash flow to keep on growing and scale?
Very fortunate that investment education is recession-proof. Come bad time like now, or the 2008, 2009, university doing a very good job. They all got funding from the government. For us, in the private sector in Vietnam, if you've been to Vietnam, you realize that the kind of whatever you see, all the 5-star stuff, luxury stuff are all there. We talked about earlier on, a Bentley car. They are Bentley in Vietnam. They got Porsche in Vietnam. The only difference is they drive at gear 2 only, second gear. They can't go faster. Because you're driving in Hanoi, you go third gear, you're in trouble, you know. So second gear only. But they're quite happy to drive slowly at 20 kilometers an hour. You can see all the ladies who wear Prada, real one, Prada bag, Gucci. Come to recession, they probably have to, I should say they will, give up some of these luxury items for the husband to just pay the school fees. So it's something that we have no problem in terms of this education. So the way to go forward to us now is that we must continue to actually consolidate our position because we are quite big in Vietnam. And earlier I talked about 树大招风. You will attract a lot of people who want to see you downturn.
Okay. So being a finance professor, all right, so I'm now curious. So you receive your fees in USD, you pay in dongs, and I know that the upside is the dollar has been coming up against the dong. Now, how do you take your money out? Because you say you could repatriate your profits.
Okay, year 2000, $1 US exchanged 13,000 dong. Today, $1 US exchanged 21,000 dong. Our school fee are pegged at US dollar because we pay all foreign staff US dollar, pay local staff Vietnamese dong. So the law is so clear because every year we use Deloitte, just like earlier, Deloitte as a proper accounting company. We do only one account. There's no such thing called 2 accounts. We cannot afford. Many people in China will have 2 accounts. So we only one account and we pay our tax and we repatriate our profit without any problem at all. So we used to, and we will continue to park and repatriate the profit and park in Singapore even though we got 0.2% interest rate. Never mind.
So how do you then get the capital to reinvest into the expansions that you're doing today?
Okay, to go forward, of course, we cannot, from transforming from a landlord-tenant position for the first 6 years, the last 4 years we've been either have a land concession or we buying land at the cheaper quantum. It is where we continue to build a long-term plan is to raise the debt level of the company. I'm not too keen today to talk about equity participation. We try to build more debt arrangement. So of course it is not easy.
So it's in dong debt, it's in local debt?
Currently in dong in Vietnam is 20% interest rate. Now I'm talking of offshore finance now, going some good headway now. is to raise some funds from Singapore and the kind of, hopefully, so today, maybe the IE Singapore can think about our international financial scheme. They promised 50 million, nothing. So I'm trying very hard to ensure that we are able to tap into the fund in Singapore and possibly work with some fund manager or somebody like Professor Koh who can give some advice to get somebody who believes in getting more than 1%, 2% in Singapore in interest rate to really go out into countries like Vietnam, Myanmar, a higher return for themselves.
So the future, before you open to the floor, so you say you do not believe in private equity, but are you likely to go for a listing?
Listing must be a plan. It's not because for fashion sake, listing or go listing. Because as the private entrepreneur, we spend money according to what we want. 2 years ago, we got some consultant came in to do the listing planning. And this guy said, "Hey Ricky, can you don't travel business class?" I said, "Why?" Because every dollar you save, you get $8 valuation more. Because they thought PE ratio of 8 at those days. I say, please, forget it. Because listing somehow a lot of stringent condition whereby we want to actually, you see, we put everything of our own family holding into the business. When listing must be the right reason. But of course, I think listing is a good recognition for the reward system for our company staff. So we will go for listing at the right time, also with the right reason.
So what's your succession planning?
Okay. Many people say family business cannot last for 3 generations. I hope I can prove this wrong. I have 2 sons, but not forgetting our own family, we also must remember outside among the company, there are many committed staff. Be it Singaporean, be it Vietnamese, soon will be Burmese people, Australian people. We must have a long-term retention program for them. So succession planning must come with reward system. And it is always day in, day out in my mind. Of course, hiring young people for a start is very important. Young, hungry at 6 million dong per month versus our Singaporean kids, $3,000 minimum. But it is only a beginning. You must be able to give them the future. Today, there are many a good example. People Vietnamese work for me for 11 years. The highest position in the company among staff, 8 years, 9 years. So what people can see the future, the Vietnamese, other nationality will be able to do the same thing. What we want is that we must conduct our company not as a family-run business. Of course, being a family, you have a little bit of advantage.
Thank you very much. He has worked very hard, bringing himself to where he is. I'll ask follow-up one question. So, Ricky, with all the accountants in this room, do you engage them to do your accounts?
You see, we actually have decentralized our accounting practice. In Vietnam, out of 800 staff that I have about 40 accounting staff. From the low level to the highest level. My 2 finance managers have worked for me for 7 years. They all have they have a master's degree in international accounting. So the first one, my group finance manager, 15 years as accountant, last 5 years as a finance manager, and she only get $3,500. New graduate accountant degree, $300. So are we actually Singaporean overpriced ourselves? But of course, if you can bring in some very additional kind of expertise, experience, network that our Vietnamese people cannot do, why not? We will pay you according to your contribution. But for a start, be realistic. Because to ask for me, the big pool of Vietnamese students go to Myanmar, same thing, in China, same thing also. You are able to find competent people for beginning, then you can train them, just like we train people here.
So the 800 employees you have in KinderWorld, none of them are Singaporeans?
We have 2 here sitting here in front. We have about 15 Singaporeans. 5 of them or 6 of them are education people. Then the others are all business development, and my general manager for, it's so funny, I tell people it's outside Vietnam. It's 7C, Singaporean, but based in Vietnam for the last 6 years. So it is something that we want to continue to bring in worthy Singaporean who want to change their lifestyle, take up new challenges, and go to Myanmar, go to Cambodia. But of course, the company must also make sure they are treated in a very, I should say, comprehensive manner.
Are there questions from the floor? One more time. I do not like to do cold call, but I think I saw some familiar faces. Just grab the mic. None? I'll follow through with one more. All right. What are the opportunities other than education? I heard 1 million babies a year. If anybody else wants to go to Vietnam like you, where do you think the opportunities are?
You see, Vietnam, just like China. China is so huge, 1.2 or 3 billion people. Vietnam, comparison, so small, 88 million people. Whatever Chinese people want today, it is what Vietnamese people want as well. So if we were to look at the China side, for those of us who are familiar with Chinese market, anything Chinese people want, Vietnamese want as well. And they want to even want it earlier than the Chinese. It took China 25 years to what they are today. Vietnam trying to achieve it in a shorter period. So by looking at all the related lifestyle program, business to make a girl look more pretty, beautiful, for the man look more charming, how to teach your kids to be more well-mannered, anything to improve the status of the individual, improving the international reach is something that Vietnamese would like to do. I believe same thing for Myanmar, same thing for Malaysia is quite close to our company, our country. But there are many things, again, of course, especially in the education side. Malaysian in Iskandar Township has made a very major decision to allow foreigner to own 100% in investment.
So how come you chose hospitality but not healthcare? We are always short of nurses.
I find it very hard to manage doctor, We go to doctor, always get worried. Oh, please don't tell me all the bad news. You see, in the case of Vietnam or even Singapore, we experienced 25 years ago, when my son wanted to actually study hospitality about 3 years ago, we couldn't find a place for him, So they had to send him to Australia to go and study in Kuala Lumpur, Bachelor in Indian Hotel Management. Many people that I associate with in my business, traveling, many Singaporeans have turned to become general manager under Escort Group. And they have given a lot of inspiration to people that actually work with them. Vietnam, if you look at it, tourism is one of the major contributing in terms of revenue, and they believe that if they look properly, they can even do more. So we are focusing on hospitality tourism because, again, it's a blue ocean strategy. In Vietnam today, there are 2 universities. One is the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, and one is they call it the British University of Vietnam. Many people focusing in business commerce. Anything easy, don't do research type. But we look at it now, hospitality and tourism, nobody else is offering the international benchmark. It is where we brought in the Australian competency-based program for a start to be able to train people from the lower level. After one program, go and work and come back. So if you look at the population, you look at the demand for good service staff, Vietnam is a big opportunity. Next, Myanmar. Next, Cambodia, Laos, even Singapore. Singapore is now facing big problem of skilled workers. But of course, somehow they are still not so keen of Vietnamese students. I don't know why. It was the question being asked before.
So I'm going to continue because I don't see someone standing in front of the mic. Do you think you could have been that successful if you have not named your school Singapore International School?
Okay. Many people wonder, depending where you go, in the case of Vietnam, it is, even though there's one country, but they are such a long, lengthy country and different background. People in the north, in the south is totally different. People in the south, in 2005, when I brought Singapore Ministry of Education people go up to Hanoi. That was 2005. How many in the classroom of year 5, 11 years old kids? How many have you been to Singapore? In a class of 40 people, 2 hands. Down to Ho Chi Minh City, in a class of 40, about 20. Ho Chi Minh, So that gave us a very clear indication that Singapore not known at all to the Vietnamese people in the north. To the people in the south, 50%. So when we first started, we actually using Australian curriculum. And we're telling people that we are running Australian program, and they thought I'm an Australian setting up school there. But of course, the last 3 to 5 years, through the efforts of many people, especially the Singapore-Vietnam connectivity framework, whereby many of the leaders speak many things about education, and of the groundwork that we have done, and because the Singapore education have gone through major transformation, even now the West acknowledge that Singapore is very strong in terms of the basic education. Our English, Maths and Science are the 3 subjects that are diligently delivered in Vietnam, building a good foundation for young kids. But of course, we also cannot follow the old way of cramming school. But the last 10 years of Singapore's school system, which we have many contact with the local school, they also put in a lot of innovative ideas, trying to balance the academic part as well as also personal development. So Singapore brand has become very powerful in the Institute of Vietnam. When we go over to Cambodia and Laos and also Myanmar, they are very welcome and they're wanting us to set up a Singapore International School. Same thing for Iskandar Township. I cannot say beyond. We talk about Iskandar Township will do. Every morning, 50,000 kids traveling from Malaysia to Singapore, rushing all the time, 5 o'clock, jump in, go to custom, causeway clearance, jump back the bus and go to school. So these are the Singapore brand to me. If you say go Singapore brand, go to China today, I think it's too late. Let's be honest. Government have a government initiative and reason. We as a private people, we must go to places where the Singapore education can really command the respect from your potential customer. So it helped me a lot in terms of the Singapore brand, in the area of curriculum, in the area of getting people who are trained teacher, foreigner, Westerner, China, the American, Canadian, Australian, to be able to use our curriculum to teach. It become a major, I should say, selling point. All the international schools in Singapore are teaching their own respective country curriculum, American, Australian, whatever. We are using the Western teacher to teach Singapore curriculum. Big challenges in the beginning, but today is no problem. And being a Singapore company, it gives us a lot of advantage when we talk to government people. We have no problem because they believe that Singapore government and their respective country, Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, even today Malaysia, Iskandar Township, when we went to speak to the Director of Education of Malaysia, out of 15 people, we went to the meeting room, everyone said, why Singapore school? Not allowed. The guy, Director General, said, why not? Because he said that if we are allowing the American to start American school, Canadian school, why not Singapore school? After that, all kept quiet. The number one said, can, why cannot? So now we are actually in the process of getting our license. I hope to be able, the first school to get Singapore International set up in Malaysia.
Very good. Last question, Ricky. So everything is so smooth, great, looking wonderful, luck on your side, the wind's blowing fine. What's keeping you awake?
It is important for me today, when I look at the year 2001, 2, 3, 4, every night cannot sleep properly. Because whoever want to repossess your car, service someone, come at 11 p.m. at night. If you have gone through all this and your family suffer all this, today, of course, we are very comfortable. We don't owe anybody money. Gone over the day people try to sue me for bankruptcy or realize that they can't get their way. It is important for us to tell ourselves now, we want to do something worthwhile. Being number one, you see, in those days when I first started Quezon, I started fundraiser. KinderWorld at one time was very well known in Singapore. People call me a kindergarten king. I say, please, don't use the word king, very dangerous. I like to do something meaningful. For those things that we cannot do in Singapore, as I shared with some colleagues just now, Singapore to me is a small little pond. We are a fish, quite big. We want to continue to grow and become bigger. And Singapore will not be able to give us the opportunity. I'm only 57 years old. I believe I can live another 20 years. And more important, I want to leave a legacy that as a Singapore company, we are able to do something totally different. Maybe we are a little bit of government, but most important, it is the entrepreneurial spirit. I hope to be able to, in the way, share with many students and also practitioners.
So a word of advice for people in the audience today, if any one of them is thinking of quitting a job and becoming entrepreneurial, what would you give as a word of advice?
I said tough. I was invited by one of the professors from SMU to sharing with a bunch of year 3 students, maybe 40 of them. Entrepreneurship, is it nurtured or nature? I must leave it to you to answer because many people will not have the stomach to actually make losses. But of course, if you are prepared at a certain time of your lifetime, either you're very young, just graduated, or maybe you're facing some career crisis, then you should seriously think about going out of the comfort zone. Singapore is very comfortable. If you have a good job, why bother? It is the biggest challenge to find good and committed staff who want to actually follow you to go overseas. Way back 2000, when I sent people to Shanghai, they asked me, Mr. Tan, is there such thing called hazardous allowance? The year 2000, I say, you better pay some money. I send you to Shanghai. It is a beautiful place, full of action. Okay, back here now. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to be decisive. Today, very difficult. When you have so much comfort, you have a car, you have a house, your children, public education, private education. Somehow or rather, I think it's very challenging. So it is sometimes there must be a push factor. A factor push you away. But for me, I only worked for 2 employers before. One is Singapore government, doing my 2.5 years national service. 18 years with Singapore Airlines. That's it, I fly in the cockpit. We only responsible to each other, that's all. We hardly see the manager, the director. We always siam. Finish work, go home. We go to, say, night stop in Los Angeles. We don't see anybody at all until you actually come back again for the flying duty. So to me, reporting to somebody might be a bit difficult. So it is up to you to ask your own question. Are you the doer or the follower? This question can only be answered by yourself. Are you an entrepreneur? You have to, again, answer yourself. I can't help you. I can help to develop entrepreneurship within my organization. But beyond that, it's difficult.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, can we put our hands together and thank Nikki for sharing with us.